Going to see one does not, and I repeat, does not mean you're crazy. It just means you value you. Peace and blessings, everyone. This is Elegant Granny, your restoration strategist and creator and host of the Proactive Eye podcast. I am here today. It is Friday. Still have on my self-love things. It is Friday evening, and I am coming to you before I prepare for bed. I want to talk about why it is so important to go see a mental health therapist or specialist, as some people call them, after you've been through a traumatic relationship, especially domestic violence, sexual assault, sexual violence, all of that. I will also share my experience with one. I had made up my mind before getting out of my abusive marriage that I was going to take better care of myself, and that I knew what I had been going through, I was going to need some help. I was not about to play myself. I went and I got some help because it was necessary, and I knew it was. And I had so many goals and dreams and aspirations that I wanted to take care of after I got out. And I knew, had I not sought a mental health therapist, then I was going to be delayed a lot. And I did not want that. So that's the reason why I went to see one. And just so you know, when you go to see one, if you're thinking about one, or if you have any angst about seeing one, it is a good idea to see one. It does not mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It just means you need to know where you are mentally. That way you know how to direct your path. That helps you direct your path. That way you know where you need to go. It lets you know where you need to be mentally, how to get there, and what you need to do once you get there. So I'm going to tell you 3 different things that I learned while I was with my mental health therapist. I would not change my therapist for nothing. Unless something drastic happens, I would not trade that experience for nothing. I'm so glad that I decided to seek some guidance because, as I said in the last video, I'm not that type of person. I'm the DIYer. I'm the one who's going to do it herself. Always have been. That's just the way I was created. That's the way I was wired when I got here. So I am so glad that I did differently, because the experience I had was different, and I needed to do something different in order to be in a better place. So have my notes here so I won't get off track, because I will do that. The first thing that I learned was you finally get the opportunity to do all of your venting without worrying about or thinking about disrupting that person's emotional state. When you have dealt with an abusive relationship, whether you're married or not, when you are ready to speak to someone, it's very frightful at times for some people to speak. Some people is not frightful. Some people are so overwhelmed that they can't help but to speak, just continue, and they just talk to any and everybody about it. They're very sanguine about it, and that's not healthy either. You Can't everybody handle what you went through? You never know who you're triggering, because they may have suppressed or repressed what they went through, or what they have experienced. Someone else that they love has gone through that, and you doing it, you don't know where that's taken them to. You don't want to add insult to the injury that's already occurred. So it's best to go ahead and see a mental health therapist. When you do see one, you don't have to worry about their emotional state when you're talking to them, because they have already gone through a special routine to make sure their emotional state is okay. From what I know to be true, because I used to work with psychologists and psychiatrists when I worked for the state of Virginia. And it is necessary that each one have their own mental health specialist. Every so often they have to go see one. It is necessary because they take on so much from their clients, and vicariously a lot becomes their trauma if they're not discerning enough, or if they're not alert enough to that. Sometimes they can carry that home with them, and that's not good. So that's the reason why it is so very important that they have one, which means it's important for you to have one as well. Because when you go through trauma, it takes a lot to deal with what you went through. And there are some pieces that you have chosen to close off because it is that painful. And if you're going to heal and heal properly, if you're going to protect yourself properly, you need some assistance. You do. You need some support, and seeing a mental health specialist or mental health therapist will get you through that. The second thing I wrote down was they will help guide the conversation all the way back to the source or the root of your problems. I learned that. I knew that from working with psychologists and psychiatrists. So I already knew how their game plan went. And a lot of times I would self-initiate the conversation into where I knew they were trying to lead me. And then sometimes I would allow them to ask different questions, because although I have a psychology background, I still don't know everything. When it comes to your own trauma, no matter what your background is, no matter what your experience is in a particular thing, you can be an expert in it. But when trauma happens to you, it's a whole different ball game. It really is. And you need that support. So don't ever think just because you are a mental health specialist or a spiritual advisor or a counselor, anything of that nature, that you don't need support. Everybody needs support. We all need support. We all do. And they are able to help guide the conversation to get all the way to the source, because sometimes we want them to focus on what we are dealing with at that moment. And they are working hard and diligently to get to why you are focusing on that part. Because if you especially focusing on a particular part, or if you are trying to veer the conversation away from a particular part of the conversation, then their job is to find out where the source of that pain is, so you can deal with it. Because if not, you're going to end up experiencing some more trauma from not dealing with it. Suppressing and repressing trauma, it doesn't work. It does not. I've seen it happen way too many times, and I was not about to allow myself go through that, because I valued me. When you are in an abusive relationship, you're not treated with value. You're not. You are treated as if you the scum of the earth. You're treated as you belong in the trash bin. You're not. I have this question that I have asked myself, and I have also asked others when I'm in conversation with them, as they are contemplating whether to leave an abusive relationship or not, or when they are planning to get out and they still struggling. My question is this: does it ever occur to you why that person is so bent on degrading you, calling you names, and threatening you that they're going to kill you, this, that, and the other, whatever they say they're going to do, or whatever it is that they do, but they won't leave? They will not leave. They depend on you for a lot. They want you to depend on them financially, physically, emotionally. But the matter of the fact is, they actually depend on you. Because if you were to leave them, they would be crushed. What they would prefer is they leave you, not you leave them. So when you leave them, their world is whole. It's just gone to pieces for them. So that's another reason why that it is so important to see a mental health specialist. The last thing I have is they help you map out a plan for self-management. And what I mean by self-management is coping skills or techniques. My experience was when I first met my mental health specialist. He was writing, and usually they get you to talk first. Well, mine did. They get you to talk first, and they do a lot of writing. He got tired of writing. He put his pen down because, first of all, I'm a talker. That's just my nature. I love to talk. And he wrote, I seen him number stuff because I'm nosy too. So I'm looking at what he's writing. And so after I'm done talking, he said, you know what? He said, I don't know how much help that I can give you, but I would do my best. He said, you have a lot of coping skills. I said, what do you mean? He said, I wrote down so many of them, and you were still listing them. And he wrote about 15. And he said, after I put my pen down, you were still naming off some other things that you do to help calm yourself, to ground yourself and get yourself back in a space of peace. And he said, I've never met anybody like that. And he also said, if you had a psychology degree, I would hire you. But it's something I started as a child because I experienced trauma as a child. I was exposed to domestic violence as a child. I watched my mother suffer through abuse, and she took us to see a therapist, and something happened to the therapist. That's a whole nother story. But she did what she could to get us the help that we needed, my sisters and I. But at some point, after that particular therapist, I'm not very sure if during that time, and this was in the 70s, if there was another child psychologist in the town at that time. Because you have to remember, during that time, a lot of churches, especially Black churches, still thought evil of psychologists. That's just the way it was during that time. And I remember growing up where some people were still seen as evil, and some people were saying, look, we need some help. We need to go get some help. Some people in the church were saying, we'll go get some counseling. They wanted to get some counseling from the church, not from a psychologist, because they just didn't think it was a good idea. But anyway, back to what I was saying, they will help you map out a plan for coping skills. They ask you different questions. They start off with, what is it that you like to do as a hobby? What is your means of escape when something is bothering you? Do you withdraw? Do you go within yourself and just draw in and don't communicate at all? Do you call somebody on the phone and just tell them all about it? Or do you color? Do you go for a walk? Do you go drinking? Do you do drugs? Do any of that? All of that is important for you to tell them. And it's also important for you to recognize what it takes to help you ground yourself. There's so many different things that help you ground yourself. Now, in another video, I'll talk about some of the things that I do that helps me ground. And it's going to be a list. It's going to be a long list. I'm not sure if it's all going to be in one video. It might have to be in more than one, but I will do that. And that is the end of what I wanted to talk to you in this video. So I hope you have had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. I did. I enjoyed myself. It was so fun. I had a lot of fun today. May you find peace and refuge, and I hope you are safe and you are well, and I hope you are being good to yourself. Make sure you are loving on you. Remember, I've had a good day, y'all. I'm so sorry. I had a very good day, and I'm so excited. I can hardly go to bed and go to sleep right now. But I want you to remember, healing is a continuous process, not a one-shot deal. Much love, much peace, and healing vibes.